I should have known something was wrong when Emily started wearing perfume to bed. Not the casual spritz and go kind either. The expensive stuff. The kind that comes in bottles shaped like abstract art and costs more than my first car. The kind you wear when you're trying to impress someone. And after 8 years of marriage, I knew damn well she wasn't trying to impress me. My name is David Chen. Wait, scratch that. David Morrison. 42 years old, tech entrepreneur, and according to my wife's whispered phone conversations, emotionally unavailable but financially useful. That last part stung, but not as much as you'd think. See, I've built a career on reading people, on understanding what they want before they know it themselves. It's how I turned a struggling app startup into a portfolio worth $40 million. It's how I bought 80% of Nexus Solutions, Emily's company, through a network of shell corporations so complex, even my accountant gets dizzy. And it's how I knew, 3 months before the Christmas party, that my wife was sleeping with someone from her office. The company Christmas party was at the Meridian Hotel downtown, one of those glass and steel monuments to excess, where the lobby chandelier probably cost more than most people's houses. I arrived early, deliberately early, wearing my best Tom Ford suit and rehearsing the speech I'd planned to give. Tonight was supposed to be the night I revealed myself as the mysterious investor who'd saved Nexus from bankruptcy 2 years ago. Tonight, I'd step out from behind the curtain and watch Emily's face light up with surprise and pride. Instead, I found her in CEO Jacob's corner office, bent over his mahogany desk with her skirt hiked up and Owen Fletcher's hands gripping her hips. I didn't gasp, didn't shout, didn't even move from my position in the doorway. I just stood there, watching my wife of 8 years get railed by a middle management nobody with perfect hair and a fake MBA from a diploma mill I'd personally verified 3 weeks ago. God, you're so much better than him, Emily moaned. And I realized she wasn't talking about Jacobs. David's so predictable, so boring. He thinks I don't know about his little tech projects, like they make him interesting. Owen laughed, actually laughed, while thrusting into my wife. Does he know you're only with him for the money? Please. David's so naive he probably thinks we're soulmates. I could bleed him dry and he'd thank me for it. That's when I left. Quietly, professionally. I walked back to the elevator, pressed the button, and rode down to the lobby. In the men's room, I splashed water on my face and stared at my reflection. My hands weren't shaking. My pulse was steady. I felt nothing. No, that's not quite right. I felt clarity. I pulled out my phone and deleted the email draft announcing my ownership. Then I opened a new message to Mitch, my investment partner and the only person I genuinely trusted. Change of plans, I typed. The reveal is off. New strategy begins now. I need everything we have on Owen Fletcher by morning. Everything. His response came back in seconds. Oh shit, what happened? I'll tell you later. Right now, I need you to dig. Financial records, employment history, social media, parking tickets, everything. And Mitch? Go dirty. I want the stuff that doesn't show up on LinkedIn. Done. You okay, man? I looked at myself in the mirror again. At my expensive suit, my carefully styled hair, my wedding ring that suddenly felt like a shackle. I'm perfect, I wrote back. For the first time in months, I'm absolutely perfect. The party was in full swing when I returned to the ballroom. Emily had changed into her backup dress, smart, covering the evidence, and stood near the bar with Owen, both of them laughing at something on his phone. She spotted me, and her face transformed into that practiced smile I'd once found charming. David, there you are. I was worried you'd gotten lost. I walked over, kissed her cheek, tasted Owen's cologne on her skin. Just had to take a call. You know how it is. Owen extended his hand. Owen Fletcher, Marketing Division. Your wife's been telling me about your tech work. Sounds fascinating. I shook his hand, held it a second too long, watched his smile falter. Oh, I'm sure Emily's told you all sorts of things about me. She's very thorough when it comes to sharing information. Emily's eyes narrowed slightly, but her smile never wavered. David's being modest. He's actually quite successful. Successful enough, I agreed, then turned to scan the room. You know, I've always loved these corporate parties. Everyone pretending to be friends, pretending to care about the company mission. When really, we're all just using each other, aren't we? An uncomfortable silence settled over our little triangle. Owen cleared his throat. That's a pretty cynical view. Is it? I think it's realistic. Take this company, for example. Nexus Solutions. 2 years ago, it was hemorrhaging money about to fold. Then some mysterious investor swooped in, bought up most of the shares through various holding companies, and turned it around. Everyone here owes their jobs to this person, but nobody knows who they are. Don't you find that interesting? Emily's hand tightened on her champagne flute. Where are you going with this, David? I smiled at her, really smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes. Nowhere, sweetheart. Just making conversation. Though I do think it's funny how people can work somewhere for years and have no idea who really controls their fate. It's like being married to someone and not knowing them at all. CEO Jacobs chose that moment to call everyone's attention for the annual speech. I excused myself, kissed Emily's cheek again, she flinched this time, and made my way to the front of the room. Jacobs droned on about quarterly earnings and market expansion. I barely listened. Instead, I watched Emily and Owen across the room, saw them exchange worried glances, saw her pull out her phone and type something frantically. My own phone buzzed. A text from her. What's wrong with you tonight? You're acting weird. I didn't respond. Instead, when Jacobs finished and opened the floor for comments, I raised my hand. Actually, I'd like to say something, if that's okay. Jacobs looked surprised, but nodded. Of course. Everyone, this is David Morrison, husband of our rising star, Emily Morrison. I walked to the microphone, looked out at the sea of faces, some curious, some bored, some already drunk. I'll keep this brief. I just wanted to say that tonight has been incredibly enlightening. I came here with certain expectations, certain beliefs about people and loyalty and trust. And in the span of an hour, every single one of those beliefs has been challenged. The room had gone quiet. Emily's face had drained of color. Some of you in this room think I'm naive. Some of you think I'm just the boring husband who doesn't understand the exciting world of corporate politics and office dynamics. And you know what? You're right. I am naive. I naively believed that people meant what they said, that vows meant something, that respect was a two-way street. I paused, let the tension build. Owen had moved closer to Emily, his hand on her elbow. But here's the thing about naive people. We learn, and when we do, we learn thoroughly. So I want to end tonight with a promise. To everyone in this room who's underestimated me, who's used me, who's lied to my face while smiling, your education is about to begin. And trust me, the tuition is going to be very, very expensive. I set down the microphone and walked out of the ballroom. Behind me, I could hear the confused murmur of voices, someone laughing nervously, Jacobs trying to smooth things over with a joke about too much champagne. My phone exploded with texts before I even reached the lobby. Emily. What the hell was that? Owen. Your husband is insane. Mitch. Dude, whatever you're doing, I'm in. I ignored them all and walked out into the December cold, my breath fogging in the air. Somewhere above me, in that glass tower, my wife was panicking. Good. Let her panic. Let her wonder. Let her spend the next few days trying to figure out exactly what I knew and how I knew it. Because the old David, the naive, trusting, boring David, had died in that corner office. And the man, walking away from the Meridian Hotel, had a very different set of priorities. The thing about revenge is that it requires patience. The movies get this wrong. They show you the wronged protagonist immediately going scorched earth, burning everything down in a fit of righteous fury. But real revenge, the kind that actually destroys someone, takes planning. It takes precision. It takes the ability to smile at your enemy while you're systematically dismantling their life. I'm very good at smiling. Emily came home at 2 a.m, drunk and defensive. I was in my office, the spare bedroom I'd converted into a command center of monitors and files, when I heard her heels clicking on the hardwood. "David, are you awake?" I didn't answer. Let her sweat. She pushed open the door, mascara smudged, that expensive perfume now mixed with the smell of alcohol and guilt. "We need to talk about tonight." "Do we?" I kept my eyes on the screen, where Mitch had already sent me the first batch of information on Owen Fletcher. Interesting reading. "You embarrassed me. You embarrassed yourself. What was that speech supposed to be?" I finally looked at her. Really looked at her. She was still beautiful. That hadn't changed. Tall, blonde, the kind of polished attractiveness that came from good genes and better maintenance. But I was seeing her differently now. Like someone had adjusted the contrast on a photograph, and suddenly all the flaws were visible. "I was just being honest, Emily. Isn't that what you always say you want? Honesty?" She laughed, but it came out shrill. "That wasn't honesty. That was I don't even know what that was. People are going to talk. Let them talk. Let them..." She stepped into the office, and I saw her notice the files spread across my desk. Financial records, email printouts, security logs. Her eyes widened. "What is all this?" "Research. I've decided to take a more active interest in your company, in your career, in your colleagues." The color drained from her face. "David? Owen Fletcher seems interesting. Marketing division, right? Came to Nexus about 6 months ago. Before that, he was at Brennan Tech, and before that, Holistic Solutions. Interesting pattern there. He never stays anywhere longer than 8 months. Why do you think that is?" "How would I know?" "Well, you work with him. You must have some insight into his character, his work ethic." She was backing toward the door now. "You're scaring me." "Am I? That's funny, because I'm not the one who should be scared." She left. I heard her in the bedroom, heard drawers opening and closing, heard her on the phone with someone, probably Owen, probably panicking. I didn't care. I had work to do. By morning, Mitch had delivered a comprehensive dossier that made me smile for the first time since the party. Owen Fletcher wasn't just a mediocre middle manager with a fake MBA. He was a serial workplace harasser with 3 complaints filed against him at Apurrieta's Jobs. Complaints that had been quietly settled with NDAs and severance packages. He'd been fired from Brennan Tech for falsifying expense reports. And most interestingly, he was deeply in debt, living well beyond his means, driving a Tesla he couldn't afford, and wearing watches that cost more than his monthly salary. "This guy's a walking liability," Mitch had written in his summary. I'm honestly shocked Nexus hired him. Their vetting process must be garbage. Their vetting process was garbage. I knew because I'd deliberately gutted the HR department 2 years ago, right after my acquisition, replacing experienced professionals with cheaper, less thorough alternatives. At the time, it had been about cost cutting. Now, it was a gift. I forwarded the information to a secure folder and started Phase 2, Social Engineering. Tina Rodriguez. No, wait. Can't use that name. Tina Walsh. Emily's best friend at work, the HR gossip queen who knew everyone's secrets and wielded that knowledge like a weapon. I'd met her at a few company events, and she'd always struck me as the type who'd sell out her own mother for the right piece of information. Perfect. I sent her an anonymous email from an untraceable account. Thought you should know, Owen Fletcher has been bragging about sleeping with a married colleague. Says she's easy and desperate. Thought someone in HR should be aware before it becomes a problem. Within an hour, Tina had forwarded it to 3 other people. By noon, the entire office was buzzing. Emily called me 7 times. I didn't answer. The second call came from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Mr. Morrison, this is Owen Fletcher. I think we need to talk about what's happening at Nexus. There are rumors circulating, and I believe you might be... I deleted it mid-sentence. That afternoon, I went to the office. Not Emily's office, my office, the one nobody knew about on the top floor of the building, accessible only by a private elevator with a key card that said building maintenance. The previous owner had used it as a bolt hole. I used it as a surveillance center. From there, I could access every camera in the building, every email server, every phone log. Technically illegal? Probably. But I owned the building, owned the company, owned the servers. The legality was flexible. I watched Emily at her desk, watched her pretend to work while constantly checking her phone, watched Owen in his office, pacing like a caged animal, watched Tina making her rounds, spreading gossip like a virus, and I watched the security chief, Frank Morrison, no relation, unfortunately, doing his rounds. Frank was ex-cop, 62, 6 months from retirement, and the kind of by-the-book professional who made my plans more complicated. He'd already noticed the deleted parking garage footage from last week when I'd slashed Owen's tires. He hadn't said anything yet, but I could see him reviewing the logs, trying to figure out the gap. I'd have to be more careful. My phone buzzed. Mitch. Phase 1 is rolling. The office is losing its mind. What's Phase 2? I typed back. Escalation. Meet me at Murphy's bar at 7. Bring the LLC paperwork. Murphy's was a dive bar 3 blocks from Nexus, the kind of place where office workers went to complain about their bosses and pretend they were going to quit. I arrived first, took a booth in the back, and waited. Mitch showed up at 7:15, carrying a briefcase and wearing his "I'm about to do something questionable" expression. He slid into the booth and immediately ordered a double whiskey. Okay, he said. I've known you for 15 years, and I've never seen you like this. What exactly are we doing here? We're going to destroy Owen Fletcher's life. Then we're going to destroy Emily's career. Then we're going to burn down everything she's built and salt the earth so nothing ever grows there again. Mitch blinked. Okay, but like, legally, right? We're doing this legally? Mostly. David, everything we're doing is technically legal. Morally questionable, ethically dubious, but legal. I'm not going to jail over this, Mitch. I'm just going to make them wish I had, because prison would be kinder than what I have planned. He took a long drink. What do you need? I need you to call an emergency board meeting. Use your shares, the ones we bought through the Cayman account. Demand a full audit of the marketing department, cite concerns about expense fraud and workplace harassment. Make it formal, make it loud, make it impossible to ignore. That'll put a target on Owen's back. That's the idea. And Emily? Emily's collateral damage. For now. Mitch pulled out the paperwork, spread it across the sticky bar table. You know this is going to get messy, right? Once we start pulling on threads, the whole thing could unravel. Let it unravel. I want it to unravel. I want everyone at Nexus to see exactly what kind of people they've been working with. We spent the next 2 hours going over details, refining the plan, identifying potential obstacles. By the time we left, I had a timeline. 2 weeks to gather evidence, 1 week to present it to the board, 1 week for the fallout. 4 weeks to destroy my wife's life. I went home to find Emily waiting in the living room, still in her work clothes, eyes red from crying. "We need to talk," she said. "I'm tired." "David, please, I know something's wrong. I know you're upset about something. Just talk to me." I sat down across from her, studied her face. She looked genuinely distressed, genuinely confused. It was almost convincing. "Okay," I said. "Let's talk. Let's talk about honesty and trust and respect. Let's talk about what it means to be married, to be partners. Let's talk about all those vows we made 8 years ago. You remember those, right? For better or worse, in sickness and health, forsaking all others." She was crying now. "Why are you being like this?" "Like what?" "Like you hate me." I stood up, looked down at her. "I don't hate you, Emily. Hate requires passion, and I'm not sure I feel anything for you at all anymore. But here's what I know. Something's going to change. Soon. And when it does, you're going to have a choice. You can be honest with me. Tell me the truth about everything, and maybe we can salvage something from this marriage. Or you can keep lying, keep pretending, keep thinking I'm too naive to see what's right in front of my face. I'm not lying. Then who's Owen Fletcher?" The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Emily's face went through a series of expressions: shock, fear, calculation, defiance, before settling on defensive anger. "He's a colleague. Why?" "Is he? Just a colleague?" "Because, the way you two were laughing at the Christmas party, it seemed like more than that." "You're being paranoid." "Am I? Then you won't mind if I start spending more time at Nexus. Maybe sit in on some meetings. Get to know your colleagues better. Owen especially. He seems interesting." Emily stood up, and for a moment I thought she might confess. Instead, she said, "Do whatever you want, David. You always do." She went to the bedroom and locked the door. I went back to my office and started phase 3. The thing about corporate politics is that everything happens in spaces between spaces. The real deals aren't made in conference rooms. They're made in parking garages, bathrooms, elevators, and gyms. The company gym at Nexus was on the 3rd floor, a converted storage space with expensive equipment and mirrors that made everyone look fitter than they were. Owen Fletcher went there every day at 6 a.m., before most of the office arrived. I knew because I'd been tracking his movements for 2 weeks now, watching his patterns, learning his routines. He was predictable, which made him vulnerable. I showed up at 5:50 wearing workout clothes I'd bought specifically for this occasion. The gym was empty except for one other early bird, a woman from accounting who was too focused on her treadmill to notice me. Owen arrived at 6:03, already in his expensive workout gear, already checking his reflection in the mirror. He saw me and hesitated, clearly surprised. "David, didn't know you used the company gym." "I don't usually. Thought I'd try something new." I was at the weight bench, deliberately using weights that were too light, making myself look weaker than I was. "You come here often?" He relaxed slightly, his natural arrogance reasserting itself. "Every morning. Gotta stay sharp, you know? Physical fitness, mental fitness, it's all connected." I'm sure Emily appreciates that. His hands tightened on the dumbbells. "What?" "Your dedication to fitness. Emily's always talking about how impressive the people at her office are. How driven, how ambitious." I sat up, wiped my face with a towel. "How attractive." The woman from accounting chose that moment to leave, and suddenly, we were alone. Owen set down his weights and walked over to me, trying to use his height advantage. He had 3 inches on me, to intimidate. "Look, I don't know what your problem is, but… My problem? I stood up slowly, deliberately non-threatening. I don't have a problem, Owen. I'm just a naive husband, trying to understand his wife's work environment, trying to understand the people she spends so much time with, the people she trusts. You need to back off. Or what? He stepped closer, and I could smell his cologne, the same one I'd tasted on Emily's skin at the Christmas party. Or you're going to regret it. I smiled. See, that's interesting, because from where I'm standing, you're the one who should be worried about regrets. Tell me, Owen, does Nexus know about your time at Brennan Tech? About why you really left? His face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. No? What about the expense fraud? The harassment complaints? The fake MBA from a diploma mill that got shut down by the state education board? I pulled out my phone, showed him the files. It's all here. Every dirty little secret you thought you'd buried. He lunged at me. I'd been expecting it. Had been counting on it, actually. I stepped back, let him swing, and his fist connected with nothing but air. His momentum carried him forward, and I stuck out my foot, just a small movement, barely noticeable, and he went sprawling across the gym mat. But he didn't just fall. He crashed into the glass partition that separated the gym from the hallway, and the safety glass spiderwebbed but didn't break. He hit the ground hard, and I heard something in his shoulder pop. Jesus! He was on his knees, clutching his arm. You attacked me! Did I? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you took a swing at me and lost your balance. These mats can be slippery when you're angry. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Are you okay, Owen? Should I call security? Get you some help? You son of a… The door burst open, and Frank Morrison, the security chief, rushed in with 2 other guards. He took in the scene immediately, Owen on the ground, me standing with my phone out, the cracked glass partition. What happened here? Owen started to speak, but I cut him off. Owen and I were having a discussion about workplace conduct. He became agitated and took a swing at me. I moved out of the way and he lost his balance. The whole thing's on the security cameras. I pointed at the ceiling camera. You can review the footage if you need to. Frank looked at Owen, then at me, and I could see him calculating. He knew something was off, knew this wasn't as simple as I was making it sound. But he was also a professional, and professionals follow protocol. Mr. Fletcher, let's get you to medical. Mr. Morrison, I'm going to need you to come with me to file a report. Of course, happy to cooperate. As they helped Owen out, he shot me a look of pure hatred. I smiled back and mouthed, just getting started. The report took 3 hours. Frank was thorough, asking questions, reviewing footage, taking statements. The camera showed exactly what I'd said, Owen swinging first, me dodging, Owen falling. It was all perfectly innocent, all perfectly defensible. But Frank wasn't buying it. You know, he said, after we'd finished the official paperwork, in my 30 years as a cop and security professional, I learned to recognize when someone is playing games. And Mr. Morrison, you're playing games. I don't know what you mean. Sure you don't. But here's what I know. 3 weeks ago, someone deleted 45 minutes of parking garage footage. 2 weeks ago, someone hacked into the email server and sent anonymous messages to HR. 1 week ago, someone accessed the building's master security system from an unauthorized location. And this morning, you just happened to be in the gym at the exact time Owen Fletcher shows up, and he just happened to take a swing at you. I met his eyes. Sounds like you have a security problem, Frank. Maybe you should look into that. I am looking into it, and I'm going to find out who's behind it. Good luck with that. Now, if we're done here, I have a meeting to get to. I left him in his office, knowing he was watching me, knowing he was suspicious. But suspicion wasn't proof, and Frank was 6 months from retirement. He wasn't going to risk his pension on a hunch. Besides, I had bigger problems. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for that afternoon, and I needed to be ready. The Nexus Solutions boardroom was on the top floor, all glass walls and expensive furniture and a view of the city that was supposed to make you feel powerful. There were 7 board members, including CEO Jacobs, Mitch, and 3 others who represented various investment groups. What they didn't know was that I controlled 4 of those investment groups through shell corporations. Mitch called the meeting to order, his voice formal and professional. Thank you all for coming on short notice. I've called this emergency session to address serious concerns regarding the marketing department and specifically regarding employee Owen Fletcher. Jacobs looked annoyed. This couldn't wait for our regular quarterly meeting? No, sir, it couldn't. I've received information suggesting expense fraud, harassment, and credential falsification. If true, this represents a significant liability for the company. I watched from my hidden office, cameras giving me a perfect view of everyone's reactions. Jacobs was defensive. He'd hired Owen personally. 2 other board members looked concerned. The rest looked bored. Then Mitch dropped the bomb. I'm calling for a full forensic audit of the marketing department to be conducted by an independent firm. Additionally, I'm requesting that Owen Fletcher be placed on immediate suspension pending the investigations. It's absurd. Jacobs sputtered. You can't just... Actually, I can. Per our bylaws, any board member can call for an audit if they have reasonable suspicion of fraud. And I have more than reasonable suspicion. I have documentation. He spread the files across the table. The fake MBA, the expense reports, the harassment complaints from previous jobs. The room went silent. One of the other board members, Karen Sutherland, representing a pension fund, picked up the harassment complaints and read through them. Her face darkened. Where did you get these? Anonymous tip. But I had them verified by a private investigator. They're legitimate. Jacobs was sweating now. This is a witch hunt. Someone has a vendetta against Owen. Maybe, Mitch agreed. Or maybe we hired a predator and we're about to get sued into oblivion when his victims come forward. Which do you think is more likely? The vote was 5-2 in favor of the audit and suspension. Jacobs and 1 other board member dissented. Everyone else saw the writing on the wall. Within an hour, Owen was called into HR and told to clear out his desk. Within 2 hours, the news had spread through the entire office. Within 3 hours, Emily called me, her voice shaking. Did you do this? Do what? You know what? Owen was just fired. They're saying it's because of harassment and fraud. But everyone knows it's really because of you. Everyone knows? That's interesting. What exactly do they think I did? Don't play games with me, David. I know you're behind this. Emily, I'm just a boring tech entrepreneur who doesn't understand corporate politics, remember? How could I possibly orchestrate something like this? She was crying now. Why are you doing this to me? To you? This has nothing to do with you. This is about a company protecting itself from a liability. If Owen happens to be someone you're close to, well, maybe you should reconsider who you associate with. I hate you. No, you don't. You hate that you underestimated me. There's a difference. I hung up and watched through the cameras as Emily sat at her desk, head in her hands, while Tina Walsh hovered nearby, pretending to comfort her while clearly pumping her for information. Tina was going to be a problem. I could see it in the way she was maneuvering, the way she was positioning herself as Emily's confidant while simultaneously spreading rumors. She was playing her own game, and I needed to figure out what it was before it interfered with mine. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You think you're clever. You're not. This isn't over. Owen, obviously, trying to sound threatening from whatever hole he'd crawled into. I texted back, You're right. It's not over, it's just beginning. And trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. Then I blocked the number and went back to planning phase 4. Because Owen was just the opening act. Emily was the main event. And I was going to make sure everyone had front row seats. 3 days after Owen's suspension, Tina Walsh requested a meeting with me. This was unexpected. In all the years Emily had worked at Nexus, Tina and I had maybe exchanged 50 words total, mostly pleasantries at company events. She was Emily's work friend, not mine, and I'd been content to keep it that way. But now, she was sitting across from me at a coffee shop downtown, wearing what I'd come to recognize as her "I have information" expression. A slight smile, calculating eyes, the body language of someone who thinks they're holding all the cards. "Thanks for meeting me, David. I know this is unusual." "Very. What can I do for you, Tina?" She stirred her latte slowly, deliberately building suspense. "I wanted to talk to you about Emily and Owen and what's really going on at Nexus." "I'm listening." "See, here's the thing. I've worked in HR for 12 years. I know how to read people, how to see patterns. And there's a very clear pattern here. You found out about the affair, and now you're systematically destroying both of them. Owen's career's over, and Emily's hanging by a thread. I didn't confirm or deny, just waited. The thing is," Tina continued, "I don't blame you. If I were in your position, I'd probably do the same thing. Hell, I'd do worse. But here's what I'm wondering. How far are you planning to take this? Because if you're going scorched earth, I want to make sure I'm not standing in the blast radius." "Why would you be in the blast radius?" "Because Emily's my friend, or at least she thinks she is. And I've been helping her, consoling her, giving her advice. But between you and me, I can't stand her. Never could. She's arrogant, entitled, and she got promoted over me 2 years ago for a position I was way more qualified for." I sat back, reassessing. "You're telling me you've been sabotaging your own friend?" "Friend is a strong word. I'm telling you that I've been waiting for Emily to fall on her face, and you're making it happen faster than I ever could. So I'm here to offer you a deal. I'll help you destroy her completely, give you every piece of dirt I have, every secret she's ever told me. In exchange, when the dust settles and you take over the company publicly, you give me her job." This was interesting and dangerous. Tina was clearly smart, clearly ruthless, and clearly willing to betray anyone for her own advancement, which meant she'd betray me too, the moment it became advantageous. But she also had information I needed. "What kind of dirt are we talking about?" She pulled out her phone, showed me a folder full of screenshots, text messages between Emily and Owen, going back 8 months, photos, calendar entries for dentist appointments and client meetings that were really hotel reservations, financial records showing Emily had been using company funds to pay for personal expenses. Nothing major, nothing that would trigger an audit, but enough to be a problem if anyone looked closely. "She's been sloppy," Tina said. "Arrogant people always are. They think they're untouchable, that the rules don't apply to them, but the rules always apply eventually." I scrolled through the messages, my jaw tightening. The affair had started almost immediately after Owen joined the company. Emily had pursued him, not the other way around, and the things she'd said about me, about our marriage, about our life together. "You think you're clever," one message read. "But David's an idiot. I've been planning my exit strategy for months. Once I get promoted to VP, I'm divorcing him and taking half of everything. Let him keep his tech toys. I'll take the real money." Another. "He has no idea I know about his offshore accounts. My lawyer says I can probably get access to those too in the divorce. Might even be able to claim I helped build his business. Spousal contribution or whatever." I handed the phone back, my face carefully neutral. "Why are you showing me this?" Because I want you to know I'm serious. I'm not playing both sides here. I'm on your side. Completely. Emily deserves everything that's coming to her. And I want to be there to watch. And if I don't give you her job? Tina's smile turned cold. Then I might have to reconsider who I'm sharing this information with. Maybe Emily would be interested to know that her husband has been surveilling her. Maybe the board would be interested to know about the shell corporations. Maybe... Careful. My voice was quiet, but something in my tone made her stop. You're making a mistake if you think you can blackmail me, Tina. I'm not Emily. I'm not Owen. I don't respond well to threats. It's not a threat. It's a negotiation. No, it's a threat. And here's my counteroffer. You give me everything you have on Emily, right now, no conditions. In exchange, I don't have you fired for the kickback scheme you've been running with the temp agency. Her face went white. I don't know what you're... Please? You think I haven't been watching everyone at Nexus? You've been getting a cut of every temp placement fee for 3 years. It's smart, relatively small scale, hard to detect, but not impossible, and definitely not legal. I pulled out my own phone, showed her the evidence, bank transfers, emails, contracts with inflated fees. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to give me everything on Emily. Then you're going to resign from Nexus, quietly, citing personal reasons. You'll get a decent severance package and a neutral reference. And in exchange, I won't press charges or tell the state labor board about your little side business. You can't. I can. And I will. Unless you'd prefer to take your chances with the legal system. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her recalculating, realizing she'd badly misread the situation. Finally, she nodded. Fine. You'll have everything by tonight. Good. And Tina? If I find out you've held anything back, or if you try to warn Emily, or if you do anything other than exactly what I've told you to do, well, let's just say the kickback scheme will be the least of your problems. She left without another word, and I sat there finishing my coffee, thinking about the messages I'd seen. Emily had been planning to divorce me, to take me for everything she could. The affair wasn't just about attraction or boredom, it was strategic. She'd been positioning herself for a clean exit, probably had lawyers already lined up, probably had been moving money around in preparation. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated me. My phone buzzed. Mitch. Board meeting tomorrow at 10. Jacobs is pushing back on the audit. We might need to play our trump card. The trump card. The big reveal. The moment where I stopped being the anonymous investor and became the public owner of Nexus Solutions. I'd been saving it, waiting for the perfect moment. But maybe tomorrow was that moment. I texted back, "Set it up. Time to stop playing games." That night, Tina sent me everything. Hundreds of messages, dozens of photos, detailed notes about Emily's movements and plans. It was more than I needed, more than I'd expected. It was perfect. I spent the next 6 hours organizing it all, building a presentation, creating a timeline. By the time I was done, I had a complete picture of Emily's betrayal. Not just the affair, but the financial planning, the manipulation, the calculated cruelty of it all. Emily came home around midnight, exhausted and defeated. She'd been at the office late, probably dealing with fallout from Owen's suspension, probably trying to figure out her next move. She found me in the living room, laptop open, presentation ready. "We need to talk," I said. "I'm tired, David. Can it wait?" "No. Sit down." Something in my voice made her comply. She sat on the couch across from me, wary and defensive. "I know everything," I said simply. "The affair, The divorce plans, the offshore accounts you think you can access, the spousal contribution claim, all of it. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Don't bother denying it. I have screenshots, messages, photos, financial records. I know you've been planning this for months. I know you've been using me, manipulating me, treating our marriage like a business transaction you were planning to liquidate. David! I'm not finished. Tomorrow I'm going to reveal something to the Nexus board. Something I've been keeping secret for 2 years. And when I do, everything you've been planning, everything you've been working toward is going to collapse. What are you talking about? I smiled. You'll find out tomorrow, but I wanted you to know tonight. Wanted to see your face when you realize that you've been playing checkers while I've been playing chess. You thought I was naive, Emily. You thought I was boring and predictable and easy to manipulate. But the truth is, I've been 10 steps ahead of you this entire time. I closed the laptop and stood up. Oh, and one more thing. Tina sends her regards. She's been very helpful. I left her sitting there, frozen, and went to bed. Tomorrow was going to be a very interesting day. The Nexus Solutions boardroom was packed. All 7 board members, plus CEO Jacobs, plus the company's legal counsel, plus, at my insistence, Emily, who'd been summoned for matters relating to the marketing department audit. She sat at the far end of the table, looking small and scared, probably still processing what I'd told her last night, probably trying to figure out what I was planning. She was about to find out. Mitch called the meeting to order, but before he could start the agenda, I stood up. Actually, I have something to address first. Something that's going to change the context of everything we discussed today. Jacobs looked annoyed. Mr. Morrison, you're not a board member. You can't just... Actually, I can. Because I'm not just Emily's husband. I'm the majority stakeholder of Nexus Solutions. I own 80% of this company through a network of holding companies and shell corporations. I've owned it for 2 years. And as of right now, I'm exercising my right to take direct control. The room exploded. Jacobs was on his feet. That's impossible. We would have known. Would you? Did you ever actually investigate your anonymous investor? Did you ever look beyond the wire transfers and the quarterly reports? Or did you just take the money and assume everything was fine? I pulled out the documentation. Corporate filings, ownership structures, stock certificates. All of it legal. All of it legitimate. All of it proving that I'd been the puppet master behind Nexus for 2 years. This is insane, Jacobs said, but his voice had lost its confidence. He was looking at the papers, seeing the truth, realizing how badly he'd been played. I turned to Emily. You wanted to know why I've been acting strange, why I've been asking questions about your colleagues, your career, your office. This is why. Because I've been watching you, Emily. Watching you build your career at a company I own. Watching you plan to divorce me and take half of everything, not realizing that the thing you valued most, your job, your status, your reputation, was mine to take away whenever I wanted. She was crying now, but I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, nothing. The affair with Owen was bad enough, but the financial planning, the manipulation, the way you talked about me in those messages like I was just a resource to be exploited, that was unforgivable. I turned back to the board. Effective immediately, I'm assuming the role of CEO. Mr. Jacobs, you're fired. Emily Morrison, you're demoted to junior staff, minimum responsibilities, minimum pay. If you want to keep working here, you'll accept those terms. If not, you can resign. Either way, your career as a rising star is over. Karen Sutherland, the pension fund representative, raised her hand. Mr. Morrison, while I understand your personal grievances, this is highly irregular. You can't just— I can, actually. Check the bylaws. As majority owner, I have the right to appoint and remove executives at will. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just exercising my rights as the owner of this company. Mitch was grinning now, barely able to contain his excitement. The other board members looked shell-shocked. Jacobs looked like he might have a heart attack. And Emily looked destroyed. You planned this, she whispered. From the beginning, the Christmas party, the speech, everything, you knew. I found out at the Christmas party, but yes, once I knew, I planned every step, every move, every piece of evidence. I've been systematically dismantling your life for the past month, and you never even saw it coming. Why? Why not just divorce me? Why destroy everything? Because you were going to destroy me. You were going to take everything I'd built, everything I'd worked for, and claim you deserved it. You were going to paint me as the boring, naive husband who didn't appreciate you. You were going to make yourself the victim. So, I decided to show you what a real victim looks like. I gathered my papers and headed for the door. The audit will continue. Owen Fletcher's employment is permanently terminated, and I'm filing a civil suit against him for fraud. As for you, Emily, you have 24 hours to decide. Stay and accept your demotion, or resign and find a new career. Either way, you're done at Nexus. I left the boardroom to chaos. People shouting, Jacobs threatening legal action, Emily sobbing. I didn't care. I'd said what I needed to say, but I wasn't done yet. That afternoon, I called an all-staff meeting in the main conference room. Every employee at Nexus, from senior management to the mailroom staff, packed in to hear what the mysterious new CEO had to say. I stood at the front, looking out at the sea of confused and worried faces. Most of you don't know me, I began, but I know all of you. I've been watching this company for 2 years, studying it, understanding how it works, and I've seen a culture of backstabbing, gossip, and manipulation that's toxic and unsustainable. I pulled up a presentation on the screen behind me, photos of Owen Fletcher, screenshots of his fake credentials, his harassment complaints, his expense fraud. This is Owen Fletcher. Some of you worked with him, some of you liked him, but he was a fraud and a predator, and he was hired because our vetting process was garbage. That ends now. We're implementing new HR protocols, new background checks, new accountability measures. Next slide. Organizational chart. We're also restructuring. Several positions are being eliminated, several people are being promoted, and several people are being demoted. This company has been coasting on mediocrity for too long. That also ends. Now. I paused. Let them absorb it. I know some of you are scared. Some of you are angry. Some of you think I'm being cruel or vindictive. And maybe I am. But I'm also being honest. This company was failing when I bought it, and I saved it. I poured millions of dollars and countless hours into making it successful. And I'm not going to let anyone, employee, executive, or board member, jeopardize that success because they think the rules don't apply to them. Final slide. A photo of Emily and me from our wedding day. Young, happy, naive. Some of you know that Emily Morrison is my wife, was my wife, and some of you probably know about her relationship with Owen Fletcher. That's personal, and normally I wouldn't bring personal matters into the workplace. But Emily made it workplace business when she used company resources to facilitate her affair, when she planned to leverage her position here in a divorce settlement, when she treated this company, my company, as her personal playground. I looked directly at Emily, who was standing in the back, face red with humiliation. So, yes, I'm being vindictive. Yes, I'm being ruthless. But I'm also being fair. Everyone in this room has the same opportunity, Work hard, be honest, respect your colleagues, and you'll succeed here. Lie, cheat, manipulate, and you'll end up like Owen, or like Emily. Your choice. I stepped away from the podium. Meeting adjourned. Get back to work. The room cleared slowly, people whispering, staring at Emily, avoiding eye contact with me. I didn't care. I'd made my point. Mitch found me in my new office, the CEO's corner suite that had been Jacobs's until this morning. Holy shit, man, that was brutal. It was necessary. Was it? I mean, I'm all for revenge, but publicly humiliating her in front of the entire company? That's dark, David. She was planning to publicly humiliate me in divorce court. At least I gave her a choice. He sat down, studied me. You know what scares me? You don't even seem angry anymore. You're just cold. Anger is inefficient. Cold gets results. And what happens now? You've destroyed Emily's career, Owen's career, Jacobs's career. You've taken over the company. What's left? I looked out the window at the city below, at all the people going about their lives, oblivious to the small drama that had just played out in this building. Now I rebuild. I make Nexus the best company in the industry. I prove that I didn't just buy success, I earned it. And maybe, eventually, I figure out how to be something other than angry and cold. And Emily? Emily made her choices. Now she lives with them. Mitch left, and I sat alone in my new office, feeling nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, no relief. Just emptiness. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. I'm leaving. Not just the company, the city. I can't stay here after what you did. I hope you're happy. I typed back, I'm not. But I'm not miserable either. And that's an improvement. I deleted her number and went back to work. 3 days later, I was in the underground parking garage, about to leave for the day, when Owen Fletcher stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes that hadn't been washed in days. His arm was still in a sling from the gym incident. You destroyed my life, he said. No, you destroyed your own life. I just exposed it. I'm going to sue you for harassment, for wrongful termination, for what? Telling the truth? Good luck with that. I have documentation of every lie you've told, every rule you've broken, every person you've hurt. You'll be laughed out of court. He pulled out a knife. I didn't move, just looked at him calmly. You really want to add assault to your list of problems? Think about it, Owen. You're already finished. Do you really want to go to prison too? His hand was shaking. You think you're so smart, so superior, but you're just a bitter, pathetic man who couldn't keep his wife happy. Maybe, but I'm a bitter, pathetic man with $40 million and a successful company. What are you? He lunged. I'd been expecting it, had been ready for it since he'd appeared. I stepped aside, grabbed his wrist, twisted until he dropped the knife. It clattered on the concrete and I kicked it away. Security! I shouted, and within seconds, Frank Morrison and 2 other guards came running. They tackled Owen, pinned him to the ground. Frank looked at me, at the knife, and shook his head. You have the worst luck, Mr. Morrison. Or the best instincts. I pulled out my phone, showed him the recording I'd been making since Owen appeared. Self-defense, all on camera. Frank sighed. I'm calling the police. You'll need to give a statement. Of course. As they hauled Owen away, still screaming threats, I picked up my briefcase and walked to my car. My hands weren't shaking. My heart rate was steady. I felt nothing. Maybe Mitch was right. Maybe I had become cold. But cold had kept me alive. Cold had won. And in the end, that was all that mattered.